The night security job at St. Clair Hospital was supposed to be a breeze. Just empty halls, flickering lights, and the hum of old generators. For Ethan Cole, a young man just trying to make ends meet, it was the perfect, easy paycheck. Or so he thought. It was a cold Friday night in November when things took a turn. The hospital had been partially shut down for years. Only one wing remained functional. A small, modern section that felt completely detached from the rest of the sprawling, decaying structure. The other wings were sealed off, waiting for demolition, their halls collecting dust and memories. Ethan's rounds took him past these sealed-off areas, through dimly lit corridors filled with broken equipment and an echoing silence that felt heavy, almost alive. At 2:13 a.m., while scanning the bank of CCTV monitors, Ethan noticed something that made his blood run cold. Movement. It was in Ward C, one of the wings that was supposed to be completely locked down. He leaned closer to the screen, his eyes straining in the grainy, low-light footage. The camera showed the faint, ghostly outline of someone walking slowly down the main hallway. They were wearing a hospital gown, pale and barefoot, moving with a strange, unnatural gait. Ethan frowned, his heart starting to beat a little faster. No one was supposed to be in there. He grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight and his radio. "Control, this is Cole. I've got a possible trespasser in C Wing. Over," he said, his voice steady despite the unease creeping up his spine. The only response was a crackle of static. He tried again. "Control, do you copy?" Silence. Just the hiss of an empty channel. A knot of dread tightened in his stomach. He couldn't just ignore it. Policy was clear. He had to investigate. He clipped the silent radio back to his belt and started walking toward the old corridor that led to C Wing. The air grew colder with every step he took, a stark contrast to the heated, active part of the hospital. The familiar hum of the fluorescent lights above him seemed to fade away, replaced by a profound, unnerving quiet. Even his own breathing sounded distant, swallowed by the darkness. When he reached the heavy double doors that sealed off C Wing, his flashlight beam fell on something that made him stop dead. The massive padlock and chain, the ones he checked every single night, were gone, vanished. The doors were slightly ajar. Hesitantly, he pushed one open. The smell hit him first, a nauseating mix of old, potent disinfectant and something else, something metallic and coppery. It was the kind of smell that clings to a place long after something violent has happened. "Hello?" he called out, his voice sounding small and weak as it bounced off the peeling walls. "Security, is anyone in here?" A faint shuffling sound answered from deeper inside the wing. It sounded like bare feet dragging across the grimy linoleum floor. Against his better judgment, he followed the sound, his flashlight beam trembling in his hand, cutting a nervous path through the oppressive darkness. That's when his light caught something on the floor. Bare footprints. Wet ones. They were starkly clear against the layers of dust leading from the entrance and heading down the hall toward the old patient rooms. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He carefully stepped over them, his pulse hammering in his ears like a drum. The footprints led him to room 319. Its door was half open, a dark sliver in the long, silent hallway. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his shaking hands, and pushed it slowly. And then he froze. A single hospital bed stood in the center of the small, derelict room. The leather restraints were still attached to the frame, dangling like broken promises. The thin mattress and sheets were soaked in something dark and long-dried, staining the fabric a deep, rusty brown. The window hadn't seen daylight in years. It was sealed shut with rusted metal plates bolted directly into the concrete wall. And sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to him, facing the wall, was the same figure from the camera feed. Her thin hospital gown was stained and tattered. Her dark hair hung in tangled, matted ropes down her back. She was perfectly still. "Ma'am?" Ethan whispered, his voice cracking. "Are you okay? You're not supposed to be in here." Slowly, mechanically, the woman turned her head. Her face was gaunt and pale, almost translucent under his flashlight beam. Her eyes were wide open, but they were glassy, milky, and utterly lifeless. There was no recognition, no spark of life. And yet, as he stared in horror, her lips moved and a dry, raspy whisper filled the room. "Don't let them take me back." Ethan stumbled backward, a strangled cry catching in his throat. His flashlight flickered once, twice, and then went out completely, plunging the room into absolute, terrifying blackness. For a few heart-stopping seconds, the world was nothing but darkness and her whisper, which now sounded like it was right next to his ear. They said the night shift would be quiet. Suddenly, the emergency backup lights in the hallway flickered on, casting a dim, red glow. Ethan scrambled to his feet, his heart feeling like it was about to explode. He shone his now-working flashlight back into the room. It was empty. The woman was gone. The wet footprints in the hallway were gone. He spun around and looked at the door to room 319. It was sealed shut with a thick layer of rust and dust, a heavy-duty deadbolt firmly in place. It looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. The next morning, the day shift guard arrived to find Ethan S. radio lying on the floor just outside room 319. The door was welded shut, just as it had been for years. Of Ethan, there was no trace. He had vanished. A later search of the hospital's archives revealed the disturbing history of that room. Room 319 once belonged to a patient who disappeared without a trace back in 1998, during a night shift. Her name was Clara Voss, and tucked away in her dusty file was her last known written note, a desperate scrawl on a piece of scrap paper. It read, "The nights never end here. Someone else always takes the next shift. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chilling tales from the dark. Stay safe out there and check your locks. You never know who or what might be on the next shift."